I'm Cody, I'm 13. I was in gym one day at school, and during that time we were running the mile, and I felt a pop in my hip, and from then on that afternoon it was hurting pretty bad, and I had football practice that evening, and so I went all through football practice with it hurting. And by the end of that practice, I could hardly get down in my stance.
That evening, we just kind of, having a child that plays sports, you don't tend to, pay attention to every little whine and whim that they have when it comes to things like that. But as the night went on, the pain got worse. And that next morning, when he woke up to go to school, he was like, oh, my hip is really still hurting. And Chris and I both were just kind of like, oh, you're really going to school. Because, kids will try to get out of school. So he went to school that day, and it wasn't even 10:30 that I got a phone call from the school saying that, Cody he didn't seem to be feeling really well. He didn't have a fever at that time and was just really, really complaining about the pain in his leg. And the nurse had said that he was actually at that point kind of limping. So we went and picked him up and brought him to my salon, and I called my husband and I asked him, being what he does for a living, to just come check him out. By the time he had gotten there, which was probably about an hour and a half later, Cody had at that point started to, it was like, you could just tell that he was burning up with fevers.
With my background as being a firefighter medic, I knew that Children's Hospital of Richmond at VCU was the place to go, just because I've taken multiple patients there with severe injuries. So I knew that they would be aggressive and take care of him quickly and proficiently.
Cody had had a series of doctors and tests. He had a nephrologist and a lung specialist, many different doctors in many different fields, checking him over to find out the actual source of what was going on. About 10:30 one evening, they came and they said, we're not going to dismiss the pain in this leg anymore. We're going to go ahead and get an MRI on the actual leg. So they took him down right away, brought him back, and we kind of settled in for the night thinking test of an MRI. We probably wouldn't get those results back until the next morning. But it was probably an hour and a half later, somewhere around midnight, that the team actually came in, the whole team, and kind of turned on the lights and suddenly, and informed us that they had found the culprit of what was going on with Cody, and that it was a staph infection in his hip bone, and that we definitely needed to get rolling with the treatment right away.
What they had to figure out now is whether or not it was MRSA or if it was a lower grade of a staph infection. So they started treating Cody with vancomycin, which they had advised was the strongest IV antibiotic that they had. They wanted to start strong. That way it would work on all of them. And if it wasn't MRSA, then they could downgrade the IV antibiotic to a lower dosage to where it wasn't as an aggressive and wasn't as hard on the body.
The staff at Children's Hospital of Richmond at VCU were absolutely wonderful to us from the time that we came to the emergency room at Children's. They were loving, they were caring, they could see the concern in our faces, and it made us feel, very reassured that even though we didn't know exactly what was going on with Cody, that they weren't gonna let us go home, or they weren't gonna rest until they, found out what was going on.
Now I'm back in the routine of things. Baseball has started back up. Spring gobbler season's getting ready to come in. Back to fishing with me and Dad fishing. Just went last week, so it should be.
There wasn't one thing that we would have changed, in that stay, because everyone treated us like family more than anything.